Afreilichen Yud Alef Nissen. I heard once from my wife's grandfather, Mendel Rifkin, Alef Shalom, that he once heard from Rabbi Lebel Groner, being that he, Mendel Rifkin, was a Kohen. Rabbi Groner related to him an anecdote that took place between Rabbi Ephraim Yalis, who was the chief rabbi of Philadelphia and was very close with the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and Rabbi Yalis was also a Kohen. And it seems that he once asked the Rebbe for guidance, what should he have in mind when he is standing and duchening and saying the Birchas Kohanim. The Rebbe's response to Rabbi Yalis was, when you're doing Birchas Kohanim, have in mind the Shver. In other words, have in mind the Frierdiker Rebbe, because he is Rosh B'nai Yisrael, and all the brachas and the hapshachas and hashpa'is that have to go to Klal Yisrael go through the head. So if you have in mind the Rosh, then your brachas will reach automatically every place and everywhere and every person that it needs to reach. We know that on the day of a Yom Haledes, it's a day of Mazoli Goiver for the individual who has the Yom Haledes. It's a day for elevation for that individual, where that individual goes mechayel el choyel, from strength to strength. Now, when that individual is the Rosh B'nai Yisrael, when we're celebrating Yud Alef Nissen, the birthday of our Rebbe, then gufa basar reisha azul, then the body goes along together with that head, and all of the elevations that take place for the Bal Yom Haledes, the Rosh B'nai Yisrael, all the hamshachas and hashpa'is that are given to the Bal Yom Haledes, all of the koiches of Mazali Goiver, automatically then are drawn down to those who are connected to that Rosh, to his Chassidim, and indeed to all of Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe related twice at Farbrengens the following story. There was a chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek, Kusher Lepler, who would come on occasion to spend Pesach by the Tzemach Tzedek. The custom in the home of the Tzemach Tzedek was that the Sidorim on Pesach were exclusive for the Bnei Bayis, for the family members of the Tzemach Tzedek, and outsiders were not invited to partake in the Seder. Given the fact that there were Chassidim that came to visit the Tzemach Tzedek for Pesach, the Gaboyim would prepare packages for each one of these guests that would contain the needs for the Seder. It would be with wine, matzah, moror, chareisas, whatever was necessary for a Seder would come packaged in a box, so to speak, and it would be delivered to each one of these guests at the home of their hosts, courtesy of the Gaboyim of the Tzemach Tzedek. Now, Reb Kusher Lepler was known for his great devotion in Avodas Hashem in general, but most particularly when it came to the Avodah of B'dikas Chametz. This was a time where Kusher Lepler really intensely was involved in that Avodah, because we know that spiritually the concept of Chametz is the negativity that exists within ourselves, and the idea of B'dikas Chametz and Biur Chametz is the idea of searching out that negativity and destroying it, eliminating it, getting rid of it. And for Reb Kusher, this was a intense Avodah on an annual basis. On this particular year that Reb Kusher was visiting the Tzemach Tzedek's court for Pesach, Reb Kusher was at the home of his host, and it was the eve of B'dikas Chametz, and Reb Kusher was going through this Avodah of doing the spiritual B'dikas Chametz by himself. And at some point in doing this Avodah, Reb Kusher got stuck. Whatever it means for a chassid of that stature to get stuck during his spiritual B'dikas Chametz service. And try as he may, he couldn't get past whatever it was that was bothering him. At that time, the Gabbai of the Tzemach Tzedek was going around making his deliveries. and he comes to the host of Reb Kusha. He says, "Where's Reb Kusha? I'd like to give him the package from the Tzemach Tzedek." And the host shows him, look, Reb Kusha is standing there in that other room, in deep concentration, in dveikus, whatever he's involved with, I don't know. The Gabbai, the Tzemach Tzedek, walks in. He says, "Reb Kusha, Reb Kusha." Reb Kusha is not responding. And after some time, finally, the Gabbai just gives Reb Kusha a shake, and he says, "Here, from the Rebbe." Reb Kusha hears the words "from the Rebbe," and that he breaks out of his reverie, and he sees this package in front of him. And he says, "Oh, the Rebbe must have sent me something to help me in my avodas Hashem at this moment." And he quickly took the contents of the package, the wine, the matzah, the charesis, whatever it was in the package, and he immediately ate it up. After eating the contents of the package, it seems that Rav Kusha now was able to move on in his avodah. Itaka helped him somehow, and he continued his bedikas chametz, and he finished. Must have gone to sleep. And it came the next afternoon or the next evening before the seder, and Rav Kusha realizes he doesn't have the tzorchei hachag for the seder. He doesn't have what he needs for the seder, but he knows that the Rebbe always provides for the guests that come. So he goes after davening, and he goes to the home of the Tzemach Tzedek. He knocks on the door, and one of the family members say, "What do you want? You know, the Tzemach Tzedek Seder is only for the family." And he says, "Yes, but the Rebbe didn't give me my package for my needs of the Seder now." The family member comes into the Tzemach Tzedek, and he shares this with the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek calls in the Gabayim, and the Gabayim say, "What are you talking about? We clearly prepared a package for Reb Kusha." And then they look into it further, and the Gabbai that actually made the delivery was located, and he says, 100%, I gave him the package. He was in the dveikus at the time, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "Here's from the Rebbe." And Reb Kusha says, now I can remember. And I got this package from the Rebbe, and it helped me. Tzemach Tzedek felt bad for Reb Kusha. He was somewhat amused by what happened over here, and he actually invited Reb Kusha to spend the Seder that night by the Tzemach Tzedek. Reb Kusha used to say that for the next 15 years, the experience of spending the Pesach Seder with the Rebbe helped me in my avodas Hashem. The Rebbe recounted the story twice at Fabrengens, and the Rebbe said that what we learn from this story is that we receive packages, we receive hashpos, we receive hamshachas, and we get things from the Rebbe. Sometimes we don't even chapsach what it is that we're receiving. We are given shlichusin to do. Sometimes those shlichusin are sweet, like charesis. Sometimes they're difficult, they're challenging, like murr. Yet, whatever it is that we are given, we are to internalize. We are to understand that whatever we are given, we are receiving koiches. We are receiving koiches to be able to fulfill. Just as Reb Kusha received the koiches from the package that he received from the Rebbe. So as we find ourselves in times that are totally different than what we're used to, where it seems that things, the shlichusin that we have now, are different than perhaps what we've had in the past. The mitzvah matzah that we've had of going out, reaching out to others, and the kol dichvin yesef v'yechel, inviting others into our homes, seems to be now a different shlichus that we have to deal and do with our own. We have an asinas koyach. We have the koyches, and we take the koyches from a day like Yud Alef Nissan. I'd like to share with you another family story that I heard from my grandfather, my mother's father, Rabbi Shimon Kalmanson. He told us that in the 1960s, there was a period of time that he was suffering from ulcers. Nowadays, most ulcers you could treat with over-the-counter medication. In those days, it was a pretty serious matter. And he was very concerned before Pesach of what's going to be with the Seder. After all, the food that we eat at the Seder, drinking 4 cups of strong wine, the matzah, the morer, the chazeres, these are all items that are not very good for your intestinal system, for ulcers. He was very concerned. The Rebbe's custom in those years was that the Rebbe would give matzah to every chassid who passed by the first evening of Pesach. Later years, it ended up becoming too large, and the Rebbe would give it out to the Koil Jungelite, who would distribute the matzah to everyone. But in those years, the crowd was small enough that everyone would pass by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would give them matzah. Now we know that on Pesach, the matzah of the first night is referred to as michla de mehemnusa, food of emunah. The matzah of the second night, the Zohar refers to as michla da asfasa, a food of healing. When my grandfather walked by the Rebbe to receive his piece of matzah that day, the Rebbe gave him the matzah, wished him a kosher freilich Pesach, and said, michla de mehemnusa. This is the meichel, this is the food of emunah. My grandfather seized the opportunity, and he said to the Rebbe, yeah, aber ich darf haben michla da asfasa. I need to have food of healing. The Rebbe smiled, and the Rebbe said, no, soll sein. It should be like that. And my grandfather said that from that time and on, from that night of the Seder, he didn't suffer anymore from the ulcers, and from that time and on, everything disappeared. We're approaching the time of Pesach. It's a time where we also receive Milmailo, the Michel de Mehemnusa, the Michel da Asvasa. The Eibusha should help that in this period of time, when each and every one of us strengthen our connection with our Rosh, with the Rosh B'nai Yisrael, learning his Sichas and Maimarim, which helps strengthen our Emunah and Bitochen in the Eibusher. We should all merit as well that this period of Pesach should bring about the Michla da Asvasa, the food of healing, that each and every one of us and our family members and all of Klal Yisrael, and indeed the entire world, should have the ultimate refuah, where everyone will be healed, where everyone will be healthy, when we usher in the Geula Ha'amitis V'Hashlema already before this Chag HaPesach. A Freilich Yud Aleph Nissan.